Have you ever noticed how the things that annoy you most about others are often the very things you refuse to see in yourself? Why is it that some people constantly accuse others of lying, but you just know they're the ones bending the truth? Or why do some people call others ignorant, but can't see their own ego or ignorance that they have? By the end of the episode, then, we'll try and understand why we sometimes see in others what we deny in ourselves, and how this unconscious habit can shape or sabotage our life. This comes from Carl Jung's concept of projection, and you probably will have heard this word before. Oh, you're projecting. Oh, stop projecting, etc., etc. So Carl Jung described this as an unconscious defense mechanism where we reject parts of ourselves and see them in other people instead. Why? Because it's easier to criticize or dislike a trait in someone else than it is to admit it exists within us. Projection is a way for the mind to protect the ego, but it actually distorts reality. Imagine walking around with a flashlight strapped to your forehead. Everything you shine it on seems lit up, but what you don't realize is that the light is coming from you. Projection works in the same way. What we notice in others is often a reflection of what's hidden in ourselves. So the critic that can't see themselves. So let's give an example. If you've met someone who criticizes others for being lazy, unmotivated, weak, yet when you look closer, they're the ones procrastinating, avoiding challenges, lacking direction. Why? Because it's easier to criticize laziness in others than to face your own failures. What if the traits you dislike most in others are the ones that you secretly struggle with? Just take a minute to think about that. What about the jealous friend? Maybe you have a friend who always downplays your achievements. You get a promotion, you do well for yourself in some ways, and they say, "Oh, must have been nice to have it easy." But deep down, they're struggling with their own feelings of inadequacy. Projection is that their envy becomes your problem, but it's really their internal struggle. When someone undermines your success, then ask yourself, is this about me or is it about their own insecurities? What about the suspicious partner? We're all familiar with this one. In relationships, projection can be toxic. Imagine someone constantly accusing their partner of cheating, even when there's no evidence, but secretly, they're the one who's have either cheated or entertained the idea of cheating themselves, or they're struggling with the guilt over past mistakes. Because it's easier to project the guilt onto a partner than to confront their own desires. How much of what we accuse in others is really a reflection of our hidden behaviour? What about the fake accusation? People calling others fake who actually struggle to be authentic themselves. They might accuse others of being shallow, but they're the ones wearing the deepest mask. What we hate in others is often what we fear in ourselves. What about the overly defensive person? You offer some light feedback and they explode in anger, claiming that you're attacking them, claiming that you don't understand their circumstances. But it's not about your words, it's about their internal struggle with insecurity. Maybe they have got some past trauma that every time they are told off, it brings that back up. Sometimes people react strongly, not because you struck a nerve, but because you've uncovered one. So we've talked about young shadow, but this is the shadow and the root of projection. Part of ourselves that we reject, repress, or deny. And this is exactly the marriage between two. So think of your mind as a house. The rooms you show to the world are clean and organized, but there's a dark basement where you throw everything you don't want to face. That basement is your shadow. It holds your jealousy, your anger, your insecurity, your fear, everything you'd rather not admit about yourself. The part that isn't shown as your persona, the mask that was used in, I think it was Greek plays, wasn't it? The longer you avoid the basement, though, the more these emotions sneak out and appear to people around you in the worst way possible. Because projection distorts your reality. It creates false enemies. You think someone's judging you, but it's really you judging yourself. It destroys relationships. The accusations, the misunderstandings, and the assumptions replace trust and connection. It blocks growth if you believe the problem is always outside of you. You never look within. So, have you ever noticed that when someone irritates you, it's not really about them? It's about the story you've told yourself. The person who talks too much, maybe you're suppressing your own voice. The colleague who is always showing off, maybe you secretly want more recognition. So, how can we break free from this cycle and understand that we need to control our perceptions and our projections? Firstly, we need to spot our emotional triggers. We need to ask ourselves, why does this annoy me so much? If someone's arrogance bothers you, ask, am I hiding my own desire to be recognized? What about asking the mirror question? Is this about them or is this about me? What am I refusing to see in myself? Why is this trait threatening me? What about doing shadow work? Sitting, thinking, meditating, whatever you want to do. I don't care what it is, but just a way of you to identify yourself and look at what traits you carry. Be radically and openly honest with yourself. Admit your flaws, your securities. The more you accept them, the less control you have over, or less control they have over you, rather. Until you make your conscious, or let's rephrase that, unless you make your unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate, in the words of Carl Jung. So next time then, try this next time you're triggered. Name the emotion. Actually notice what emotion is that you're upset with in others. And then ask yourself, when have I felt this before or when I have I acted in this way? And then ask yourself, is it really about the other person or is this just a reflection of myself? Projection isn't a flaw, it's a survival mechanism. But if you're not aware of it, it becomes a trap. The more you avoid your shadow, the more it controls you. But when you face it, you reclaim your power. So ask yourself today, who or what am I projecting into the world? Because if you keep seeing the same thing, you're upset that someone's messy, maybe it's you that's messy. Maybe if you say someone's quiet and boring, maybe you need some excitement in your life. Maybe if you're saying someone's aggressive and angry, maybe that's you. Maybe you're the aggressive, angry one, and by noticing it, you're meant to reflect on it, but instead you just project it out to other people and say that the world is a bad place. Start thinking about self-improvement. Look, this channel's obviously about self-improvement and philosophy that go hand in hand. So this philosophical concept can give us ideas of how to self-improve because instead of projecting, why can't we fix our own issues? Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to make us a better person.